And still coming up on the show today, what steps should governments and corporations take in securing smart cities? And what role do we have to play? We'll discuss this next on Techno. Hello and welcome back to First Look Asia. More connected and convenient, that's what smart cities aim to achieve through the use of big data and the Internet of Things applications. And according to Navigant Research, there are over 200 smart city projects around the world, with many of them here in the Asia Pacific.
But in the wake of recent major cyber attacks from WannaCry to Petya, just how secure are smart cities? And more importantly, what needs to be done to keep them safe?
Well, here to tackle this very topic are David Siah, the country manager of Trend Micro Singapore, and Tarun Kora, the security advocate at Symantec Asia Pacific. Welcome to the show, gentlemen.
Good morning.
Morning.
David, let's start with you. So according to this IDC research, it says smart city technology is going to amount to $1 trillion in 2025. What are some of the risks when it comes to smart cities?
Well, as cities account for more than 70% of the world's GDP, right? Sabotage, right? Intrusions, all this will affect cities with great impact. And as we progress these cities into a smart city, we can see that all these cities would have a lot more cyber avenues for cyber attackers to attack them. There will be different vectors that could come in for cyber criminals to engage in crime, engage in hacktivism, or even espionage activities. This is mainly because as we progress into a smart city, there will be an interconnectedness of devices, and all these devices connect back to their parent critical infrastructures. So therefore, it becomes a hotbed for cyber criminals in the event if these smart cities are not properly secured.
Yeah, let's unpack that a bit more. Tarun, you know, ransomware has really become the hacker's favorite tool, it seems. And it's not just corporations that are being targeted. Now we're seeing governments and very important grid systems. Can you tell us what the threat is here in Asia?
Oh, okay. So ransomware a few years back actually started more with consumers. It was like a digital extortion that they used to go after. But off late, they are using exploits and vulnerabilities on a larger scale. Especially with WannaCry and Petya, we heard a lot of enterprises got impacted. In Asia, we saw ransomware definitely on a rise. And we've seen some of times the ransom itself has gone up 3 times from $300 to $1,000 in some case. And the kind of exploit that they're using is pretty sophisticated. And a lot of enterprises who are not being able to patch their systems on time had been a victim of it, because these ransomwares are like worm, which actually spread across laterally also if they have to. So it's a big threat, if you ask me.
You mentioned the ransom going up 3 times. Is that because people are paying? So these attackers know, okay, we're going to up.
Be more daring.
Yeah. So you know, so if you break up the problem into it's multiple problems. One is there's a lot of personal data which you know, people store in their assets, which are like computing devices. So once a ransomware attack basically encrypts the entire disk, and if you have to get the data out, if you have not backed it up on time, you're going to pay them. Obviously, we don't suggest the consumers or the enterprises to pay up, because that breeds more economy. But if you look at it, yeah, I mean, people are ready to pay if they have a lot of sensitive data which they want to recover.
Something not to be dismissed at all. Now, David, a key part of smart city projects is transport infrastructure. What are some of the real-world vulnerabilities there? Can you elaborate on that for us?
Right. So, you know, I would like to elaborate a little bit more on the keyword vulnerabilities. Vulnerabilities refer to loopholes in all this software in the smart city applications. And if they are not patched in time, they could leave themselves wide open to an attack. So just to leverage a little bit more on what Tarun has mentioned earlier, right? The San Francisco Transit Authority just about 8 months ago got hit by a ransomware attack. And as a result, you know, all their fare collection systems all was brought down. And as a result, the riders will get free admission into the subway for the whole day, right? So this is actually a very, very big issue, and it actually touches on a very critical part of the smart city infrastructure, like the critical infrastructures. Take, for example, in Ukraine, just about 1.5 years ago, their power utilities were being brought down by a malware-enabled cyber attack. As a result, more than 80,000 users were denied, right, power and electricity. Now, this was what we classify as a very well-coordinated, widespread attack against a critical infrastructure. And if in a smart city we are not able to defend our critical sectors well, right, that we'll be wide open to really such attacks in the future.
My goodness.
Now, Tarun, when these larger systems are attacked, so say a transportation system, is there something more sinister afoot? So I'm thinking we provide so much information in terms of where we travel. Say we swipe our cards on the transport system. Is that data going to be used in some malicious way, or is it just the inconvenience that the transport system is affected?
It's both. So what they do is actually they go after, first they look at the device which is vulnerable, and then they go after the information. It could be either bring the availability of the system down, like ransomware brought the availability of the system down. But yes, I mean, they obviously go after identities, personal data, which could be traded in black economies. So they get data, personal identities, social security numbers, which could be sold in the market. A lot of times a consumer uses the same password across multiple applications. So if I get, let's say, a password in an application A as a hacker, I can try to use in a few of the banking applications and I can still go through it. So they go definitely first as availability, but they also go after the data if required.
So it sounds like there are indeed a lot of security considerations for governments. So given your experience then, David, do you think governments are now, how well equipped are they to handle these sort of attacks? If they were to happen, are there any blind spots?
Well, I think that governments today have really prepared themselves very well. As we move into a smart city, there is actually the need to learn how to secure these smart city devices, the sensors that sense your electricity, your wastewater, and even your utilities applications as well, such as our industrial control systems. So we are getting ourselves ready. It is imperative that our cybersecurity professionals are trained to handle this new kind of challenges. At the same time, all this must be enabled with regulations, right? There must be a strong cybersecurity regulation that enables and enforces that all these critical infrastructure providers provide a secure critical service so that the service can continue to go on. They are well defended against cyber attacks. So in order to defend a smart city properly, a computer emergency response team or CERT needs to be put in place. Such CERTs could perhaps execute countermeasures in the event of a cyber attack, or maybe if a critical service is brought down, implement measures to bring it up, or in the event of peacetime, perhaps share information like vulnerabilities or loopholes in systems, how to patch them, or even share advanced threats indicators of compromises as well.
All right. Very quickly before we go, Tarun, listening to this, if somebody's at home thinking, okay, I don't really need to worry about protecting myself because this is the work of government and corporations, what can the individual do to guard against ransomware attacks when it seems like it's a larger problem than you as an individual?
Yes, so there is a blur of, if you look at from an individual perspective, you're bringing your assets like bring your own device into the enterprises. So it's no more, it's a consumer problem. It's a combination of the problem of what consumer is accessing at home versus what he brings in an enterprise. From a consumer perspective, yes, we advise that you should have, software which protects your assets like PCs and mobile devices, what you connect. You can have firewall-based, routers placed at home. So to have two-factor authentication for your critical applications so that if a password is compromised, at least there's a second-factor authentication which challenges a hacker to get in. And obviously be updated in terms of taking up the backups on time so that if you're hit by a ransomware attack, at least you're not paying up to retrieve your data.
Fantastic.
Right. Yeah, very good advice indeed. Thank you so much for sharing your insights with us today, gentlemen.
Thanks.
We've been speaking with David Siah of Trend Micro Singapore and Tarun Kora of Symantec Asia Pacific.